Have your pants on. Barry, what's up, man?
We had to have pants on?
It's not a hard and fast rule.
It's appreciated by the rest of us, though. Let's not lie.
Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all. Fearless.
Welcome to our Victus podcast, and I'm just going to turn it over to Jason for the intro here because I'm really curious to hear how he's going to intro our good friend Brittan Berry. But yeah, go for it, brother. Let's hear.
So I've thought about this a lot of times. First of all, I've never Zeb and I, when this brainchild came out of Zeb, and I can't say no to Zeb because I don't know why I would start now. I never have. He was like, hey, we should get interesting, fun people. And I think literally the moment we were done with our first one, I was like, let's get Brittan. And he was like, great choice. Let me explain why Brittan was my choice. First of all, I'm super excited that everyone gets to meet her. Everyone should. She's hands down one of my favorite people. She's super humble. So she's going to probably not like all of the part of me talking about how awesome I think she is. So there's multiple ways you can describe Brittan. I was like, can I go from a professional standpoint? Because I mean, she's got a pedigree that's beyond impressive. She went to Harvard, then she went to Yale, and then she went to Google, and then she went to Microsoft. She's traveled internationally. Was it Machu Picchu? Am I saying that even close?
I'm Killy too. I mean, yeah.
I mean,
traveled the world doing some awesome trips and good stuff.
I mean, so that in and of itself is super impressive, but I don't think that really explains how I know Brittan very well. Brittan to me is just sincerely one of my favorite people. We met in CrossFit, and
CrossFit.
What's that?
I got you.
What?
CrossFit.
So she got me to CrossFit through my ex-wife. That's a story for another episode. So it's funny because, well, actually, after the divorce, like we kind of kept hanging out. You, me, and Andrew. She introduced me to Settlers of Catan, which is a great way to test a friendship when someone's trying to steal your wheat. But we made it. We made it through the wheat stealing, and then I was just kind of this guy.
For the record, I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Barry knows. I can tell by Barry's response that he's hip to what we're talking about. Barry, have you played Settlers of Catan?
No, but I made fun of people that have. So,
okay. All right, cool.
That's my guy.
Yeah, there's
Josh.
just some nerdiness that I guess Zeb hasn't even approached since he's not even heard it.
Haven't heard it.
Josh, we'll edit this part out. So my experience with Brittan was she welcomed me in like family when I really didn't have one in Indianapolis. So I spent Thanksgivings with her. I spent Christmases with her and her family and her awesome husband, Andrew. We then moved apart, kind of kept in touch. She's now a mother. I'm now a father. So like we have that, just all around. She's one of those people that's hard to talk about without, and I'm not trying to make this a weird thing, getting a little emotional because I care about her so much. So I'm super stoked that you guys get to kind of pick her brain and understand kind of the cool things that make B. So that's my intro. I'll go around the horn now and kind of introduce everyone just so you know who you're staring at. I don't know if our cubes are set up the same way. To my left, that's Zeb. You've met him. He's always a good time. Below me is Barry Wynn. Barry, I kind of the newest relationship. I'm just kind of, yeah, that's what's up, man. That looks great when we do that. Josh, we'll work that in post. Barry's got a great story. He's out in South Carolina with Zeb. Josh is younger. He's got a lot of spunk. He actually, this is an impressive story about Josh. I'll brag on him for a second, even though I've maybe seen him like 3 times. He was so interested in what Victus as a brand was doing that he reached out to the company, and he's now, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, now an intern for Victus Health.
Not anymore.
An employee. What?
No. We let him go. We let him go is what we did.
Yeah.
He's gone. He's off.
This is his last
I just joined this.
Well, in this then this just got super awkward. So I'll move on to Brooklyn. And then Brooklyn, she's got a great story. B, you would dig it, not because I don't know if you're into horses, but if you are, you can talk to Brooklyn for hours about them. She was like a competition. She left home when she was 14 to become a horse whisperer. This is a real story.
Oh my God.
Huh?
I was a working student, so I was just on the track to going pro. So, but just along the way, it was pretty cool journey.
Pro in what part? Like racing, dressage?
Exactly.
Jumping?
It's like a completely different world for these guys. I was trying to explain it to them. They were like, I don't understand. A little bit of dressage. It's kind of where I started. I did a little bit of Western pleasure, but I'm mainly show jumping. And I did a little bit of eventing too, but it's the jumping side of things.
Can I just back up for a second? Did you say, and I don't mean this in the wrong way, like Western pleasure? That
Yeah,
just sounds
it's literally discipline. I know it's a discipline, and it sounds funny now that you bring it up because I've never thought about it because people just say it
I'm
all
just
the
gonna let that lie. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sounds.
it's just show Western, but it's a bunch of bling and it's huge. But there's a lot of money in it too. But anyways, enough.
She rode a $500,000 horse.
I did.
Horses that cost a ton of money, which is wild to me. Yeah, I know. I had the same look with the eyes.
Hey, Jason, in all fairness, one of the things you missed when you were introducing the former intern, Josh, was that Josh pretty much thinks he's better than everybody on the planet at really everything. I mean, he thought he could beat Rich Froning in double unders. Thought he could beat Michael Chandler in an MMA ring. I mean, it got kind of awkward for a little bit, some of the stuff he was coming up with.
Admittedly, I might be poking that bear for good video footage in the future. But yeah, well, and I've since become like Instagram friends with, I think everyone, no, even Barry. Yeah. I think I was friends with Barry first on Facebook, and like, it's fun to see everyone's life, like their social media life. Like Josh are you a male model? Is that what's up?
No.
You take,
No.
Is that just like, okay, it said male model, did.
Was it
fitness model?
No, was it foot modeling or was he like a hand model or something?
I don't know, man. He's a fit dude, and I don't want to make this. I'm not taking this down a weird path. Good for you, man. You look, you're young. You look good. I used to look good with my shirt off. That must be nice. I don't remember anymore. So sorry. Yeah. So Zeb, you have the agenda. How do you want to do this?
Yeah. So let's talk about how I think it'd be kind of fun to talk about how we met Brittan through CrossFit. Kind of this, maybe B, you share your story. So this is my problem. I got two Brittans or two Bs in my life are on the screen right now. Brooklyn, I call her B, and Brittan, if I call you B, I don't mean it. It's just going to come out naturally.
Between having two berries and two Bs on this right now, like
right.
I am wildly confused. So I'm just going to start talking.
Yeah.
All the time. You can tell me if it's the wrong one.
Well, so I think let's talk about how we met, and then let's talk about, your really, really interesting, unique professional career and honestly, educational career. And then what brought you, how you got to Google, how you got to Microsoft, what you guys are doing now. Tell us your story, and maybe I'll start off and say one of the first real experiences besides we would go to CrossFit every morning at what time? Do you remember, anybody?
Team 6:30.
Team 6:30. That's right. And we'd suffer together, and that's what kind of brought a bit of a bond. But then we went off.
We had shirts made.
We had
Barry
shirts
can appreciate
made.
that.
And then we went off and did. There was an event we did in Chicago. You guys want to talk about that?
Oh gosh, the Tough Mudder. Yeah, I never had to pee so bad on a bus in my entire life. That's the one thing that sticks out to me about that. When we were riding to the event, I had to pee so bad. Now, fortunately, when you're doing the Mudder, you just go. So that's great. Well, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. You're in water. You get behind the crew in front of someone else. Yeah. That wasn't your first Mudder though, Brittan. You've done a couple, right?
That was my third, I think. My third Tough Mudder.
Have you done any since?
I don't think I have. It's funny. The older I get, the more I can, the less I can find willing adults to electrocute themselves on purpose. Like, everyone's just realizing that it's a bad idea. Andrew actually did something similar to it out here in Ohio a few years ago. I don't remember what it was called, but he said it was 10 times harder and so much cooler than the Tough Mudder. And I couldn't do it then because I was pregnant. So it just seemed like a really bad idea. But yeah.
Isn't it like a Spartan race or one of those, some sort of extreme Spartan or something?
It wasn't one that we know. Like, I think everyone knows Tough Mudder. Everyone knows the Spartan series. It was something that I don't know. And I wish he wears the free t-shirt that he got from it all the time. And I don't remember, but yeah, I got to be like the water person for them and just hand them water. I have not been able to do any since. But if everyone on this call wants to form a team, Team Victus.
Let's wrap it up early, guys. Let's wrap it up early. Yeah, when you get Zeb and B in a room, we're all end up shocked. And
let's go.
I think my favorite part of doing the Tough Mudder with Brittan, we'd only been friends for not long, like maybe a month or so. And so Brittan and I, this adds to the fun of the story. So Brittan and I met at CrossFit with my wife, and Andrew was there. And then she introduced us to Mercy Road, which was a local church. So we all started going to church together, and it was great because, we had a good relationship, great fellowship. Everything was like super PG. I share that to share this. So then, I don't know if you remember this, Brittan, but we're crawling underneath. We're like army crawling through the electrical fences. And I hadn't known her that long, and I got shocked on my shoulder, and something just like the whole right side of my body. And we got to the other side, and I'm looking at Brittan, and she's like, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, what's up? She's like, you said some things underneath that electricity that would make your mom blush. And I was like, oh no.
Dude, people get knocked out from that stuff too.
You can. What I do remember is, yes, we keep referring to the fact that we all did CrossFit together, but Jason and I would purposefully put our squat racks across from each other because Jason was determined for me to stop out squatting him.
Oh my gosh.
When we started, I was squatting more weight than Jason.
Brittan, so that just didn't stop at some point. Like, I remember watching you do, and I don't know if it was like 225, 10 rep back squats or something, but we were all sitting in the gym like, you've got to be kidding me. Now, give everybody a little context for everyone who's going to listen and watch this. Gives people some context about your athletic background because it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It bears being explained considering she was beating all of the dudes at CrossFit, all of them.
Yeah.
So I went to like a high school in Southern California that was Division IV, meaning that we weren't very great at sports. In high school in California, we have so many students that do athletics that we are pared down into divisions. I think Texas is probably the same because there's like those are the big athlete states. So we were Division IV, which is like the small school, you're not really great at things division. And I remember when I was applying to college and my high school track coach, I started doing track because we all were forced to try a sport. So I did, in California, soccer is a winter sport. I realize that's not the case around the country, but in California, it's a winter sport. So I ended up, by the time I graduated, I did cross country, which was because I could get on the team. I started on JV soccer because no one got cut. And then I did track because while I was doing JV soccer, the track coach was like, you're pretty fast. And so when I was applying to college, same track coach was like, you know what, you should apply to a D3 school. Like, apply to a D3 school, you'll be able to run track still. And I know you love it, it'll be great. Well, I ended up not doing that and going to a D1 school. And I contacted the coach. I was not recruited because I was not that good. I contacted the coach and I was like, I want to run track. And he was like, yeah, no. And then I contacted a different coach because track teams have like 7 coaches because there's so many different events that you can do. And I was like, I would like to be on your team. And he was like, what do you do? And I was like, what do you want me to do? I just love track. This is coming from someone who just like loved track. And then I found the coach there that he was like the throws coach, the jumps coach, and the heptathlete coach, or decathlete if you're a guy. And I was like, I would like to be on this team. Please let me walk onto the track team.
Hold on, Brittan, this is a community college, right?
There was a local one nearby called Cambridge Community College, but this one was Harvard, which.
Oh, you see, you glanced over that. I wasn't sure what you were where you were talking about. Yeah.
Jason already said, you already said it. But yes, this was Harvard, which fortunately at the time, to be honest, was like okay at track, but not great. The last Olympic trials that we had, I think Harvard had the second or third most athletes at the Olympic trials for track and field. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and behind like Oregon or LSU, you know, those are like, I don't know if you guys know because no one cares about track as much as I do. Those are like collegiate powerhouses for track and field. So I begged my way onto the team. He was like, what do you do? And I said, what do you want me to do? And he's like, do you throw things? And I was like, no, but I will. And he was like, do you jump? And I was like, I will. I just really love track. So I walked onto the track team as a heptathlete, which means I had to do 7 events. So 7 events over the course of 2 days. That's high jump, long jump, 100-meter hurdles, 200, 800. What am I missing? Oh, javelin and shot put. So those are the 7 events you have to do. And the goal is to be like pretty well-rounded. You have to be pretty good at everything, but you don't have to be great at anything. And I did that for 2 years. And then at one point, we have like the Harvard, Yale versus Oxford, Cambridge track meet. It's the oldest continuous transcontinental athletic event in the history of the world because the Olympics actually took a break between like the ancient Olympics and the modern day Olympics. So this track meet is like the oldest event. There's some history for you guys. And we needed someone to do long jump. And since I did 7 events pretty okay, the Yale athlete who was supposed to do long jump got hurt. And I became the long jumper for the American institutions. And when I was there, I won the meet. I became a long jumper. I then came back and broke the school record in long jump. Then our 4x1 team broke a school record. And then I was also on the top 10 list for the 100 meter. And it was just, I'm getting goosebumps because it was so exciting for me. I was never like LSU or, you know, U of O caliber, but I did make it to NCAA's my senior year for regionals. And I just love it. And I walked on, I begged my way onto the team. And then from there, I actually lived in South Africa for a year after college. And when I was there, I wanted to keep running track. So I was the provincial champion for KwaZulu-Natal at the South African meet, the national meet. I represented a tiny province called KwaZulu-Natal. I mean, they're not really good, but I did that, which was fun. And then I moved back to California when I was done. And then we moved to Indiana. And how this all comes back full circle is when we moved to Indiana, I was like, okay, I don't know anybody in Indiana. I'm going to be working from home. So I have no way to like make coworker friends. What is something that is like very community oriented, maybe cult like that I could do? And I was like, I'll try CrossFit. And that's how I got into CrossFit. And all of this goes into the most important part, which is I squatted more.
than Jason and I combined, actually.
No, not that. But in college, that was like my weight room claim to fame because the only women in college who could out squat me were hockey players. And I'm built a little differently than hockey players are. I'm a little different shaped than hockey players are. So I think my 1 rep max in college was like 295, which
oh my gosh,
made me
that's
happy.
So Barry, do you get it now? Does that make a little more sense? She comes in, she's smoking us. Like, I mean, this girl, like, she comes in, and when you meet her in person, you're like, oh, you know, cute little, you know, kind of petite little thing. You'd never expect her to put 300 pounds on a bar and just like start moving it like it's not there. And I'm just like,
crazy.
Brick house.
Yeah.
Totally. What was your 1 rep?
Awesome.
B?
No, that was my 1 rep. I wish I could say like
295 was your 1 rep?
Yeah, I went for 300 once at CrossFit in Indiana, and it was poorly executed, and I never tried again. You should.
Was that the one that rolled down your back and like caught your hair?
Yeah. Yep. The bar rolled down my back. My husband was mad when he learned that I tried.
Yeah, Andrew was not happy. I remember that at all.
That was really. He was like, "Where was the coach?" And I was like, "Recording me." So that didn't end well, but I wasn't hurt. It just means that when a bar that heavy rolls down your spine, it actually chips pieces of your bone, and now they're just floating in my body.
Oh, geez.
Wait, is that true? Like you've had this like looked at?
Oh no, it's because I don't know, I went to the doctor after. I was like, oh, by the way, the bruises down my back is because I did that. And she did something and she was like, yeah, it's like small. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just going to like hang out in your body now.
Like floating fragments.
Yeah, just like a floating fragment.
Oh, those are painful.
Maybe it was a bad doctor though. I don't know. She didn't seem concerned.
Chris Mason, if you ever watch this, I want you to know that some of that responsibility falls on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Chris. We know it was.
All of it. Blame Chris for all of it. That's easier to do that way.
Brooklyn, did you get bone chips on a? Go ahead.
No, but I've ridden a lot of horses that have had floating bone fragments, and they are like unrideable afterwards because it's like so painful. And it's like random though. Like they'll be fine 1 second, and then they like it floats around. So it's like then they're like dead lame and they're like hobbling on one leg. But it's just I've heard it's really painful too in people. But
this explains some things.
I know you're like I have pain all the time.
I kind of just forgot about it, but maybe this explains why I've been walking around recently thinking my back hurts.
Yeah,
that's crazy. So one of the things that was funny for me when we went on that Tough Mudder, it was really besides I went at 5:30 a.m. You guys were 6:30 a.m. class members, and you guys were nice enough to allow me to join as an honorary team member for the Tough Mudder. But I remember getting out there and meeting your husband for the first time, and I was like, "All right, cool, man. You look like you're in pretty good shape. Like, are you gonna have any? You worried about this? You worried about going the 13 miles?" He's like, no, it's not, no problem. I'm like trying to give him advice on like certain things, and then I find out I start asking questions, and Jason tells me later that to give everybody some background on your husband as to why I would have felt completely embarrassed trying to give him fitness pointers.
Where'd you guys meet?
Oh, so my husband and I met at Harvard. I sent him an email after hearing about him and asked him to go on a date with me. So that's how that started. And he said, he was like, any person who has the guts to set herself up on a blind date is worth meeting. So that's how we met. We've been together since then. What did
Andrew do at Harvard to kind of give? Oh, you're building. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So we met at Harvard. Andrew played football at Harvard. People have varying feelings about football at Harvard. Some people are like, cool, he played Division I ball. And then other people are like, Ivy League football, what? So I get that, but he was rated, like named an ESPN All-American and he was good. Like he was well known. If you look at his statistics from college, apparently I don't understand football statistics very well. His statistics don't look that great because he was so good that teams stopped throwing the ball in his direction. So his numbers don't look great. He was a corner. His twin brother played football as a wide receiver at Princeton. So in high school, my husband was the quarterback and he threw to his brother, the wide receiver. In college, they were on opposing teams, the cornerback and the wide receiver. And so my husband had to like block him or guard him or whatever it's called. So that always created for a fun game every year. But he played football at Harvard. He really likes fitness, and he actually tried out. He went to like the camp for the Washington Redskins our senior year and herniated a disc in his back. So
no way. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So he was like one and done so quickly. I remember this because obviously we were dating, and I was like, are you okay? Isn't it every little boy's dream to play in the NFL? And he was like, I'm fine. I don't want to talk about it. And I was like, okay. And so at that point, his other option was to go work at Goldman Sachs in New York. And he was like, okay, I guess I'll just go to work at Goldman. Please note, his twin brother is now a managing director at Goldman Sachs. But he was like, I guess I'll just go work at Goldman. And then this guy named Tom Telesco, who is now the general manager of the Chargers, but at that point was a scout for the Colts, came to him and was like, hey, heard about the injury. You're really smart. And you know football really well. We don't have people like that. So you can go to Goldman and like, go to Goldman, or you can work for like $20,000 a year, but in football. And Andrew was like, I think I'm going to work in football. And I was like, don't you want to think about this longer? I think I think we should think about this longer. So, you know, we're going to live in New York. We're going to be rolling in the dough. And he was like, no, I mean, how often does like a 21-year-old, 22-year-old get the chance to work in football? I'm going to do it. So he worked in football.
Can I say a quick story about Andrew to kind of explain exactly how he's wired a little bit?
Yeah.
So when she says he's smart, she's not lying. I mean, the dude's as sharp as they come. In college, I remember him sharing this story, or maybe you shared it when I was over. They would play beer pong. You already know what I'm going to say, right? So
I hope I do.
they would play beer pong, but instead of like Andrew being really good at beer pong, he ended up creating almost like this fantasy beer pong style like draft statistics. And he would like track all of the different beer pong statistics. Like, it's just the way the guy's wired is like, he's so analytical. Like, he was the one that he taught me how to play Settlers, and I will always be in his debt for that. He's an amazing teacher.
Yeah. A quick way to know how smart my husband is, because I can brag on him, is that when the rest of us were at Harvard getting 4-year 1 degree, just scraping by, he finished his bachelor's, I think, in 2 years, but was like, and it was in economics, so it wasn't anything like silly. You know, he's finished his bachelor in 2 years. He was like, well, I still want to play football, and I have 2 more years of eligibility left. I guess I'll just get a master's in computer science. And he graduated with 2 degrees, Phi Beta Kappa, was a John Harvard scholar, means he had the top 10% GPA in the university. And the school basically like begged him to like go for the Rhodes Fellowship. And he was like, I don't really want to go to school again. Like, I don't really like school. And he got all this scholarship money from all these awards he was winning for football. And he was like, I have to go back to school. I don't want to go back to school. And I was like, I don't know, go to cooking school or something, like do something. He's just like, yeah, no, I don't really like school. That's why I did it all at once. I don't really like school. I was like, well, how? And then you have me. I love school. I did not get those grades, but I made it. But I did not get those grades.
That's right.
But yes, he worked for the Colts. He was very athletic. He was a scouting assistant. His job initially, back in the day, you would print out photos of things that happened on the field, and then you would run them over to the coaches. This is back in 2009, 2010, before like the Microsoft Surface took over as the sponsor. So he would do that. He would pick up players coming in from workouts from the airport. And he would, because he had a good arm, he would actually warm up the players at games because he does have a very good arm, in my opinion. And now he's been working in football ever since. And I'll just get to the punchline that's very exciting. He is now the general manager for the Cleveland Browns. He is one of 2 Black general managers and the youngest in NFL history.
It's awesome.
So
super
he
cool.
got the job at 32 years old, and everyone was like, whoa.
You know, I think we just need to take a minute to allow Josh to take credit for all of his success,
Right.
which is what Josh normally finds a way to do. So, no, Brittan, I mean,
You know what, the cherry on top of all of that, and again, it's similar to you, B, like all of those accolades are unbelievable, but his character and who he is as a person is really, I think, what defines him, at least the way I see him. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Like Brittan and Andrew would do. He's so down to earth, considering this extensive pedigree and all of this stuff to brag about. Like you two are perfect for each other. Like he is such a solid dude and so fast and strong. He's the worst guy to run a Tough Mudder with if it's your first one.
And now you know why I was incredibly embarrassed to learn all these things and start trying to give him, like, before I knew all that, give him like fitness pointers on the Tough Mudder course. Like, no.
And he's now into CrossFit as of this last summer. Like he's
Is that right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this right now. If you guys are ever able to, I don't know what your schedules end up looking like, but if you ever want to come down and do a Rich Froning event with us, you just let us know. We'd love to have you as our guest. So I know you got kids and everything. And
on the sidelines.
You can watch or you can work out. I mean, Jason doesn't work out right now, and he still goes and tries to kill himself. So
I got a free T-shirt, so I did it.
So let Andrew know you guys are welcome anytime you all want. Happy to host you down there. It's always always a good time, a lot of fun. But wait, so we kind of got, well, we were talking about some good things, but I want to get back to talking about your particular story though, Brittan, because you, as you know, you get out of college, you do a year in Africa, and then you come back and walk everybody through some of the really interesting corporate experience that you've had, and then how you got off and did your MBA and where you went, and not just there, but like the leadership role you took while you were there, and then where you've been since then.
You've done a great job tracking me, Zeb. Or you looked at my LinkedIn profile.
No, Brittan, I know you. Like,
I legit creeped you. I know you, and I creeped you prior to this. So you're going to get one of those creepy. Jason Saunders has viewed your profile.
So I'm going to say this, and then I'll shut up and let Brittan talk. But the reason I know this is because I saw these amazing, Brittan is our student body president at the Yale School of Management sort of stuff, and made me laugh because I was like, you're who do you root for on the Harvard Yale game?
She did a TED Talk.
That's what I'm saying.
Or was it? She did a TED Talk, for crying out loud. Like I say, guys, like I'm so excited to introduce one of my favorite people to you.
Well, so we got to shut up and let her talk because nobody cares about us.
Yeah. So I did work in a corporate setting after college, and to go back a little, it's really an interesting divergence because most of the women in my family, if not all of them, are in healthcare. So like my mom was a nurse, or my grandmother, because I was raised by my grandmother. She was a nurse. And my aunt's a nurse. Like everyone was in healthcare, and no one had gone to college. So I was a first generation college student. And so I felt like because of that, I was going into things a little blind. I didn't really know what I needed to be doing. And while I was at Harvard, fortunately, it was the summer between my junior and my senior year was the first year that Google had started like bringing in interns that weren't for engineering, because I studied sociology. I did not study engineering. My lifelong goal had always been, and might still be, working on marketing for Nike. And that was like, I was like, I'm going to work on marketing for Nike. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's why I'm going to this school, because I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm working marketing for Nike. I still have never done that. But that summer when I was like, that's what I'm going to do, Nike was like, yeah, we don't hire marketing interns from the undergrad level. And Google was like, we're hiring. And I was like, what is the Google? Like I had heard of it. I knew it. I had a Gmail account because that was so cool. And I got an invite because you used to have to get an invite to get Gmail back in the day. And so I worked there that summer, and I kind of just fell in love with tech. And this year that I graduated was 2009, and I had a job offer from Google, and there was a global recession happening all at the same time. And it was a very hard decision to make because I was like, if I don't try to get this fellowship from my school, I will never be able to take this risk again. I always try to tell people, get into a habit of taking a risk while the risks seem low, the bar seems low, because at that point I never had made a full-time salary. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. Like had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So I decided to turn down my job offer. I couldn't hold it in the middle of a recession when like all the finance people were freaking out and they all went into consulting, and all the consulting people went and took the tech jobs. And then all of us like random people were just kind of out in the blue. And so I went to South Africa for that year. I did community development work. I worked with orphans and vulnerable children affected by AIDS. A lot of that, it was great, very great experience. I'm very glad that I did it. Lifelong impact. And then when I came back, I reapplied for my job at Google. I actually did like a hybrid application because I just kept in touch with them, and then was like, this is why my experience in Africa with children somehow relates to tech. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And so I worked at Google for 4 years. I started at YouTube. Google had acquired YouTube a few years before that. And that was so much fun. It was like working in a startup where there was no downside. Like everyone was, at that point, YouTube had no ads or anything. And everyone was like, how do you guys make money? And we were like, we don't, but Papa G, that's what we called Google. Papa G pays us, but we didn't have any way to make any sort of revenue. And then I went to the Google headquarters, which was like, an hour south of the YouTube headquarters. And I worked there. And most of the work that I've done has been on like communications, like internal communications, people experience, etc. And then the hard part about when your role ends up being much more of the people experience in a Bay Area tech company is that I'm not trying to cast a broad net, but there's an engineering culture of entitlement that's really hard to keep up with in Silicon Valley. Like people are like, well, at Facebook, they have dog parks. And you're like, really? Like we're now arguing over who has a dog park at their job. Like, and so I, at one point was like, I love working at Google. I'm out, I'm out. I'm going to go to business school. I'm going to go to a pretty chill hippie school. I won't say chill, is academically pretty rigorous, but very chill. And like, you have like the Whartons and the Booths and the HBSs of the world. They're like, "Arr!" And then you have like Berkeley and Yale, which are like, we're going to do best for business and society. And we're going to make the world better as we go. And it's all about like making sure that everyone's lives are improved by our existence. And that's a little more my feel. And so I went to Yale. I loved it. I am so glad I made that decision. The summer that I was my internship summer, I ended up going to Microsoft, which was like when you're at Google, we used to call Microsoft the company that shall not be named. But it was neat because I worked at Surface. And so I did customer marketing for the Surface. I owned the initiative of marketing for women because there's a lot of purchasing power that's untapped with women because women actually have the best purchasing power in most households for most consumer goods. And it was really fun and it was really great. And it was really interesting to work on a product because in SaaS, which is software, like you can just ship updates all the time. But with hardware, like if you mess it up and you launch it into the world, you're kind of screwed because it takes a while to get the next iteration out. If you can't update it over the air, you've screwed yourself and your brand. And
what year is this roughly when you're at Microsoft?
2015.
So I got to tell you, I've had a Microsoft Surface. I don't right now, but I have had a Microsoft Surface from 2015 through basically last year, and those machines are awesome. Right, they're fantastic, and I'm actually still kind of bummed. I switched over to a MacBook Pro because I just wanted to have everything that's synced up together on the Apple system. But I guess I committed to that tech. However, I'm bummed because Apple they don't have a touch screen. They got their iPads, but I still think the Surface might actually be a better piece of hardware. So I'm going to give you credit. Josh, you can't take credit for this. I'm going to give Brittan credit for designing the entire Surface system. So
I will take it. I can't have credit for that. But yeah, there's something really magical and special about, especially my second year of business school, having a laptop that I also just wrote notes on like a piece of paper.
Oh, it's awesome.
And having it just like then take my notes and put it into typing like text. And then I can send that note to somebody else. Like I don't even have a Surface right now. I haven't for years. And I'm so bummed because as I'm saying it, I'm reminding my marketing chops are coming down as to why you'd want this device. So I spent that summer at Microsoft. While I was at Microsoft, I also, I split that summer. So the end of the summer, I did a road trip from New Orleans to Atlanta to Nashville to Detroit. And I did pro bono consulting for entrepreneurs who were trying to revitalize their communities. And so my biggest project that I did was in the lower Ninth Ward of New Orleans. They had been hit the hardest by Hurricane Katrina that was 10 years prior and still had boats in the middle of their road. Like it was devastating. And it was really sad because the year that I was there, because it was the 10th anniversary, the mayor suddenly came up and was like, and look what we've done for the lower Ninth Ward. And they're like, no, our kids take 4 buses to get to school because our school's wiped out and no one built one back. Like it's a primarily minority community. So just like everything was just hit so much harder. So trying to open up a grocery store there so that it wasn't a food desert with someone named Burnell. He's awesome. He got on the Ellen show after, like, it was really great. We got on TV, but that was really special for me. And then my plan after that summer was to go back to Seattle and join Microsoft. And then that compromise that comes with marriage and relationships is what happened when my husband was like, I got a great job in the Midwest. And I was like, no, I went to business school because the Midwest, I'm not made for this. I'm not made for the snow.
Funny. And where are you now?
Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes, so much snow.
I spent the last year and a half actually living in Atlanta, Georgia, which is like incredibly uncomfortably hot right now. So I guess I should be excited about this. But yeah, I now work for a tech startup. We're a late stage startup called Full Story. We do software, and it was actually founded by a lot of previous Google employees. So it's really fun because now I'm at that like YouTube, Surface, like startup stage again without like and it's a little more exciting, I guess, because we don't have like the Google or the Microsoft to pay our paychecks. We have to pay our own. We're VC backed, so we have a lot of investors, including like Kleiner Perkins and Google Ventures. So, and Salesforce, we have pretty good investors. We have great investors. If any of my investors hear this, and we're great. Like I really enjoy it.
So that was you were in Atlanta for a year and a half. Most recently for that. Yeah. Is their headquarters in Atlanta? Is that where they're at?
Yes. The phrase that I think I coined was "our heart beats in Atlanta." However, with coronavirus, we are now spread everywhere. Like
that's right.
When I started, we didn't have any remote employees. Right before I went on maternity leave with my second kid, we had these things called prove-its. Startups come with funny names. Prove-its, and I was to prove that we needed a remote workforce, not only because salespeople need to be closer to their customers and we were going up market, but also because like the engineering pool, you can't just rely on one city. We have Georgia Tech, but you need engineering talents all over the country and the world. And then by the time I came back from maternity leave, I think like 20% of our workforce was remote. So I guess I proved it. And then now 100% of our workforce is remote because on April 15th, we opened up 15,000 more square feet of office space that is now still empty.
Oh man. Yeah, you couldn't have planned for that, right? I mean, but
nope.
It does prove the thesis that employees can really work from anywhere. However, I still believe there's a lot of the informal interaction that happens inside an office that you lose by having Zoom, right? You can't overhear somebody that's having a conversation at in a lunchroom or just happen to catch somebody and be like, "Hey, what are you working on?" So there's value in having offices, but I mean, obviously businesses are still running very successfully by going almost entirely virtual. So
yeah, but the hard part about virtual is that you have to have an intent and a reason to speak to somebody. Whereas in the office, like for some reason, Full Story employees are obsessed with hot sauce, and we basically had this like massive counter of hot sauce, and then people started making their own hot sauce. So we had we would just congregate around the kitchen around like hot sauce.
That's awesome.
And then, right, but it's like random things that you miss. We had so someone brought in plants that eat bugs. It wasn't a Venus flytrap, but things that scared me just as much. And so these small like conversation starters that happen around like the coffee machines and the bug catching plants and the hot sauce and the hot dog eating contest and stuff that we usually have. Jason would have killed that.
Jason would have killed it.
He would have
Thank you. I know.
Absolutely killed that. I really miss that. And I think we hire really excellent people and I miss seeing them every day.
This isn't your first time being in Cleveland though, right?
No. So we were in Cleveland when Andrew first took his first big job. He was the vice president of player personnel for the Cleveland Browns. There was some leadership change and I was working in a hospital system as their lead innovation strategist. We turned into a ventures
not just any hospital system. I mean, she won't say it. So she was working at Cleveland Clinic, one of the best in the world at what they do. So yeah, sorry. I'm bragging for you over here.
That's the problem. It's not the problem. I worked at University Hospitals, which is the one next door.
Oh, I'm sorry. So listen, what do I know?
No, but it's fine because it's like, there's a big like hospital tension in Cleveland because Cleveland actually has, I think, more medical professionals per square foot than any other city in the Midwest. But we also have the highest infant mortality rate. We have more lead poisoning than Flint, Michigan. It's like the healthcare disparities are really crazy. So the University Hospitals focuses more on the community of Northeast Ohio, and Cleveland Clinic focuses more on like big time surgeries that you can do like in Abu Dhabi and stuff. So there's different value propositions.
Because you're now back, do you have a lot of friends from your first time there that you guys get to see? Did you keep friends? How's the transition back to Cleveland been for you?
Transitioning in the middle of a pandemic is pretty It's not fun. I haven't really seen very many people. I will say that a lot of the friends that I had before that was tied to my husband's job aren't here because when there's a leadership takeover, the leader that was here before Andrew brought in his own people. So a lot of those friends ended up having to find jobs in different places, and the NFL is very geolocated. Like, you work for the Patriots, you're going to be over in New England. You work for the Saints, you're going to be in New Orleans. Like, there, unless you're a road scout, there isn't very many jobs you can do from afar. Or at least that's the way of thinking it. I think thankfully coronavirus has changed that. So the good thing is I'm not coming in completely like confused. Like, it doesn't matter because we're not congregating in large groups. I don't think Andrew's actually allowed to be in groups of 15 or more people. Like, he's not, even if we wanted to go to like church or something, we can't. And I'm okay with it because I don't know, singing sounds like a really great way to transmit germs. I don't know. So I've been we knew which church we were going to watch online. I've been slowly but surely like finding other friends that all ended up having kids around the same time that were here and being like, please help me. Don't you want a play date? I promise we've been socially distant enough. So I've had some of those like mom moments where I'm like, please
help me.
Can we, you have a swing set. I do not, this is a rental. I cannot put a swing set here. Can I just go over to your place? I'm doing that on Sunday. So this is real life.
Well, plus as crazy as it drives all of us as adults. I mean, I know my daughter, so she's almost 2. When this first hit, and I have this little 18-month-old just with only other adult interaction, like, they need to be around other kids, play dates are, and again, I sound like such an old man now, but it's like, it's so important. They need to fight over a toy or make friends with a stranger. Like, they need that social aspect. If the pandemic makes me nervous of anything, and again, so, Marty's a teacher, this is how she's doing class. And you talk about I'm with you. You talk about the small things you miss at work, whether it's, hot sauce or talking about your favorite candy in the giant dish. That's what we do here. Kids, that's how, like, take Barry and Uncle Phil. I think about the relationship you have with Phil. Like, that's how you guys became like best buds. Yeah. I hope it doesn't take that away from our kids. So anyway, I'm not trying to put somber moment, but as cool as this tech stuff is, and I've been in the tech space for almost my entire professional career, it comes at there's a detriment that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely a mental health problem that is already burgeoning, but we're going to see for years to come, which is sad. I will say my almost 3-year-old, his name is Zion. He's cute as a button.
So big.
He's so big.
He's a monster. I love it.
We'll walk down the sidewalks, and I think he is so desperate for human interaction. That's not me. That he sees anyone, he's like, hi, you're riding a bike? You don't have a helmet on. I love giraffes. You're going to fall, and you have no helmet on. Oh, mommy, he didn't say hi to me. Like, he just like starts having conversations with like any human he can find.
It's like word vomiting.
I think he just, word vomiting. He's told everyone in this neighborhood he likes giraffes. And I'm like, I don't think care that my 2-year-old likes giraffes. And he's also, neighborhood patrol for people biking with no helmets on.
That's awesome.
This is his thing right now. You don't have a helmet on, you're going to fall. So he's so desperate to see other humans that he's definitely asking for it. Sadly.
All right, let's rattle off some questions for B. What do people want to ask?
You guys
PR and long jump.
Oh, my PR and long jump was right.
Here we go.
Josh thinks he can beat you. This is so Josh. I can't believe you, man. I introduced you to my favorite person. You think you can beat her all of a sudden.
Josh, what's your PR and long jump?
Oh my God.
Now she got you. That was perfect.
Honestly, I feel like it was 15 feet. I did do long jump in high school though. But
here we go.
Yeah.
Get him.
Long jump. I did high jump. I didn't get past the starting height though. Yeah.
What was your PR? What is the starting height for men?
It was like 4 foot.
Right. So My long jump was right under 20 feet. And I don't think I ever high jumped because I didn't do it for very long. I don't think I ever high jumped higher than 5'6". So, but that was like over my head.
Really tall.
Yeah.
Hi.
For someone that had
I'm
like
5'6". Like,
yeah, I'm 5'6" too, and my high jump form was pretty atrocious. I just ran as fast as I could and Fallsbury flopped my way over it, and it was pretty ugly. So, yeah, I love track.
job done. That's awesome.
I got to tell you, the first time I ever saw somebody, like when we were doing high jumps, was, I don't know, third or fourth or fifth grade or something, right? Like that. They lay out that cushion, right, and then they put the bar set up, and we're running like straight at it and trying to like dive over. And like this one kid knew how to do that technique where you run up to the side and you do that little flip thing, and we were all like, "Holy shit! Like that's amazing!" But none of us ever figured it out, and I still don't know. So. Yeah, kudos to you guys.
But you've now given me goals because I'm like, great, one day my boys are going to be in PE and I can set them up for success. They may, I don't know how their grades will be in other subjects, but I can make sure that when like, you know, 5th grade track and field comes up, they'll be like, and how does he know the Fallsbury flop? I don't know.
I don't think you got a lot to worry about. You got the Smith-Berry genes going on. I think these kids are going to be naturally gifted athletes,
like astronauts or presidents or
all the
yeah.
Okay, I mean, I see your little. Is that your doggy behind you?
That's Oliver.
Yeah. This is Oliver. He's been around for a while. He'll be 9 next month.
I was going to say,
yeah.
Oliver from Indiana.
Still looks like a puppy, I think. And he's Jason and Oliver had a good bond back in the day.
So I would watch Oliver whenever. So Brittan and Andrew would travel a fair amount, and like we had apartments that were across this little adorable main street from one another. So we would always it was literally cup of sugar. That's kind of neighbor. Like I kept soda in her fridge that I drank and they didn't. That's how often I would just come over. I was Kramer in her life. I'm realizing that now. If this was an episode of Seinfeld, I was Kramer.
The same mannerisms too, honestly. Dude.
It legitimately just occurred to me. So, but when they'd go out of town, I'd get to watch Oliver, and Oliver was fun to watch because he would, and I told you this, so he would poop inside. But here's the problem: it was fine because it's so little. Like it was like little Skittles on the ground, and I remember telling her, and she was like, "I'm so sorry," and I was like, "What are you sorry about?" I'm like, "Wait." I go, one, I don't own the carpet. I'll clean it. It's not a big deal. But it was like, it's like adorable. Like, I don't know.
Adorable poop.
Dude, Oliver's my guy. Like I used to, when I would go over, like they'd be walking in one direction. I'd be walking from another. She would take him off the leash and he would just like beeline it for me. And I was like,
that's fun.
Come home, Oliver. Oh, good dog. Love his greenies.
A little less cute than Oliver poops. This morning, I realized I only had one diaper left for my 17-month-old, and I had it in a different room. So I ran to the other room, and then when I came back, there was a nice poop on the floor, and he was just staring at it, smiling. I guess I should have taken a picture of it because I was so like, "Are you kidding me?" And he was just like, He was it was just perfectly shaped like the little poop emoji and everything. And I was like,
the ice cream squirrel.
Yes.
Oh, man.
That was my younger son, not my older son.
I mean, if we're gonna talk about kid poop stories, so we fed my daughter. Scarlett was maybe 12 months old, 9 months old, something like that. When you're starting to feed them like soft food, so we went with. I made a mistake. I went to Publix and I picked up. I think it was chicken and gravy in like the Gerber container. And it had it was like super rich. And the moment I opened it up, I was like, oh, this is going to have some calories to it. Right. So, oh yeah. And so we fed that to Scarlett. My dad was in town and we were going to pick up, I remember this so well. We were going to pick up this great place that used to do like takeout ribs. And Scarlett had a blowout, right? Out of the diaper in the car. I still have a photo of this thing. I mean, and it was like somebody took a jar of mustard and just sprayed it all over her car seat. And I was like, Yeah,
Yikes.
so I'm gonna.
You're not really like encouraging Josh and I to like bring other humans into the world.
I'm gonna go ahead and hunt down this photo for you guys. Oh, by the way, for Jason, in case you're wondering, not that we're changing subjects, but just want to say I finished again in the top 1% of the world in Peloton today. Top 1%. Oh, sorry.
Hey, has
Gosh,
no, go ahead, Barry.
It's science here, bud. You see that right there? Science.
Josh was a little higher, I think. Right, Josh?
Yeah.
Has Rich ridden his bike yet?
Ooh, good question. No, Rich's bike hasn't even been delivered yet because it had so many. So, Brittan, we at Team Victus like giving Rich Froning a hard time as often as possible. And so for his birthday this year, and the guy's old as dirt. I mean, I think he's like 500 years old right now. So we decided we were going to buy him a Peloton bike. And the problem is I bought it on like 2 days before his birthday to give him like, hey, happy birthday. And the folks are like, look, we've had so much demand, we can't deliver it. This was back in the middle of July. They're like, we can't deliver it until like early September. So the dude's waiting on a Peloton bike that we bought for him. And the reason I bought it and I wanted to is because my bike is perfectly calibrated. So, as the athlete I am, I finish in the top literally 0.1% of the world in Peloton every day. And I can't wait to just beat the crap out of him on a Peloton where he finishes like even in the top like 25%. I'm just going to crush him. And it's the only thing in the world I'm going to be able to crush Froning at. And it's because, again, my bike is calibrated.
Some people wonder how well it's calibrated. He beats Nick Smorelli. Well, and you know Nick Smorelli. He's built like a biker. Like
it's not my fault that it's like I'm just a better athlete. I mean, what am I supposed to say?
Is this the kind of calibration where every rotation that you do to get registered?
No. Brooklyn, I followed the calibration. They sent me a whole detailed package on how to calibrate it, which I did. So it's perfectly in spec.
Okay.
And he's got to be getting at least 3 more rotations.
Okay, fine. I'm the Lance Armstrong of
Oh yeah, the autofocus did not help on that. It really got the detail.
So when I said it was a jar of mustard, I really honestly meant it was a jar of mustard.
Good God, man.
I feel like I need to bring my dog over here for like an eyeball palate cleanser.
Yeah, we need to see something cute has to happen.
Here, I'm going to cover it right here just in case. This was done last night.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, they're so cute. What, he's got earmuffs on or something?
No, that's the toy in the back. It looks like it though.
Yeah,
okay.
That's just something in the back. And here is my other kid that's really excited because the neighbor gave him a rock.
I got a rock.
Dude, they're so cute.
I love it. Are we all just doing like parent stuff now? Because like if we just want to make everyone's
going for
that's it. Come on, Barry. Barry, I know you got a couple.
Josh is going to break out his modeling pictures with his girlfriend.
Yeah, Josh, show us one of those. What do you call it? Blue steel. You got like a blue steel look or something.
I'll just look up his Instagram. I'm sure that's all of his photos.
I could have sworn it said male model. If not, we should change that.
Dude, look it up right now so we can document it before Josh can mysteriously have his Zoom break out off the call and he drops off.
He's going to delete his Instagram.
He's going to delete his Instagram right now.
It doesn't exist.
I do have one quick question.
Barry,
that's the look I get 90% of the
Dad.
like, seriously. Yes, that's what I get. So
all right, Brooklyn, you had a question. Go for it.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to ask Brittan. So like obviously you have such a great just record with, your professional life, athletics, all of the above. So like what do you think the next 5 years look like for you as a working mom? Just out of curiosity. I mean, I know that's like a really general question, but
that was a very good question. I wish that I knew. I want to hang out at Full Story for a while. I think that we are 3 years away from IPOing or like being bought, which you just, when you're working at a startup, you like kind of want to see that happen. Like you want to see what, so I'm excited for that. But to be honest, I pretty much threaten to take a 2-year nap most of the time. Like, I've had moments where I've told my husband, like, I think I'm just going to retire tomorrow. And he's like, and then what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to take a nap for a very, very long time. And so I want to like help build this company up and see where it goes from the perspective of how I contribute there. I honestly don't know what would happen after that because I am so tired at this very moment.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm realizing I'm not suited for is that I don't think I have it in me to be a stay-at-home mom. I think the people who are stay-at-home moms like are very strong in things that I am not strong in. I do not want to see these boys all day, every day. It actually like drives me bonkers. And so it's a
And COVID, and with COVID on top of that, right? So now you're
Right.
doubly like inside the house, can't go out.
Right.
So it really like I think that there are, talking about mom stuff. There's a lot of mom shaming, like moms who go to work. People are always like, oh my gosh, you leave your kids. Don't you know that you'll never get this time back? This is the most important times of their life.
Right.
Moms who stay at home, people are like, what do you do all day? Like, you just play with your kid? Like, how hard is that? It's really hard. It's a completely different skill set. And I am my best version of being a mom when I can step away from them and engage really hard on something that I find to be interesting and fulfilling and different. And then when I can step away from that and go back to them, I mean, I'm also mean probably sometimes, but I also feel like I'm just so much better at being there for them. So I know that's not a great answer, but
that's actually an awesome answer. I totally, that's a fantastic way of having people think about it and look at it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I don't know how much time we have left. Steph, can I ask her one more question?
Go for it. We got as much time until she kicks us out.
Okay. What made you choose sociology in college as a study?
So in college,
sociologies, and then I kind of drifted away because people were, oh, you can't, you can't have these jobs and whatever. I just had a lot of negativity from it, so I drifted to communications. But I loved psychology, so I'm just curious to know what drove you in that direction.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm grateful for, and a lot of liberal arts schools do this nowadays, is you don't have to choose your major until you're a sophomore. Some of them you have to know coming in. I was fortunate not to be in that situation because I probably would have chosen neurobiology, pediatric neurobiology, which that would have not worked out for me. So because I had a moment where I thought that's what I was going to do. Be quiet, please, little dog. I knew that I've always been interested in race relations. I've always been interested in education, and I've always been interested in socioeconomic backgrounds. And I was very curious on how does someone's life and where they start actually affect the trajectory on where they'll end? For sure. Unfortunately, it has a huge, it's heartbreaking. I'm very fortunate because by all intents and purposes, I actually jumped out of the socioeconomic system that I was born into. All that being said, when I went to Harvard, I remember I was like, yeah, I want to do social studies because, Harvard doesn't have like a race department, doesn't have an education department, doesn't have any of those very track-oriented things except for like medicine and law. Everything else is just like, think, very liberal arts, like just what do what you're interested in, and you'll find a job that comes with it. Mm-hmm. And so I remember I took a social psychology class, and I took social psychology, and I was like, wow, this is fascinating because in all intents and purposes, I don't care about which neurons in your brain are firing when something happens. Like, I could care less. I actually care a little, but not that much about how individuals are pursuing and thinking things. But when people come into groups, and there's this idea of like groupthink and how groups of people influence the world, how they experience the world. I mean, and this can be partitioned in any group. This can be like men. This can be Hispanic men under 25 that live in LA. You can do that, but movements and problems and issues and amazing moments are all created mostly by groups. Like, you have a leader, but you also have followers. So I found that to be really fascinating. And so I was like, fine. And I kind of took this idea that I just said, it's like, when you're an undergrad, congrats for going to college. That was a big deal for me. Congrats for going to college. do something that you find to be fascinating and interesting.
Right.
Focus in graduate school or focus in your job. But like, unless you know you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, you don't want to start behind in those because that takes forever. But like, do what you love. And I remember I got the same thing when I was graduating. My family was like, associate what? What is that? That is not a job. Like, what can you do with that? And I said, well, sociology is understanding people. And if you can name me a job that doesn't involve other people, I'll know not to look at that one.
Right.
And so that's what I did. I work with people in tech. I've been in the tech field for years, as you know, and I did communications work because understanding how to say the words that motivate people to act in a way I need them to. Sociology. Marketing is knowing what to show people and what to say to people and using their behaviors and nudging them to make purchasing decisions that will, hopefully they believe at least, it sounds very manipulative, positively influence their life. Sociology. So I find sociology and like human-centered design and all of those things to be really fascinating. And I try my best to just pursue things that I find fascinating. And then it's on me to make the connections on how it will work in the real world.
Sure.
That's cool.
That's such an awesome base, though. I mean, I was so intrigued in sociology when I started school, and I loved it. I ate it up. I pretty much minored in psychology, but definitely communications is my major. But you get a very wide variety of classes when you go into sociology and communications. You get the whole entire package. So
yeah, I mean, and you definitely have to be willing when you do something like that. The onus is on you to figure out how it works. So there are things like, you know, if you have a communications major, there will be jobs that are marketed directly to you.
Right.
There are not jobs that are markedly directed to sociology majors because unless you're trying to be a professor, what would that be? Right. So the onus is on you to figure out how that works. I was willing to take that on, and I just feel like a lot of college students don't even know that that's an option. I feel like there would be plenty of college students out there that are like, I find this to be really fascinating, but what is sociologist? Like, what is that job? I know that I want to be able to work in this field. So I guess the only thing I can do is get a job that I know they recruit for.
Right.
I'm sure there are a lot of college students where if someone was like, oh, you can still apply for, like, anyone can apply for the job. You just have to state your case. I'm sure there are many more college students that were like, oh, I will take that on then. I'll state my case.
Yeah. When I went that direction, they were like, okay, you can only be a social worker pretty much. And I was like,
oh gosh.
That was literally like the reality of what people were saying. So I got a little scared and terrified because I was spending all this money to go to school and I'll graduate and not be able to find a job as anything but a social worker. So
that is a hard job. And
there was people on the outside, but that was outside of the department. Obviously, it was a lot more hopeful within the department, but I still doubted it because of everything I heard outside. But I'm super glad that you answered it that way. That was very helpful and insightful.
So spread word to all of your favorite 17 and 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
So maybe that takes us into our last question, just because we're well over an hour. But Brittan, what advice would you have for yourself if you met your 18-year-old self on the street? What would you say?
I feel like I already told you guys my advice, and I feel bad that I'm just going to repeat it.
Go ahead.
I think what I would tell that person that I learned a little more and more on the way is just make a habit of risk taking. Try for things that when you fall, you're not going to fall nearly as hard, because when you're 18, what do you have to lose? Like, I applied to a school that I didn't think I could get to because the worst thing that they could say to me was no. And there's like Mount Sac was the community college nearby. And it's like, there were options. Like there are options that you have, but if you don't take that risk, you wouldn't have ever known. Walking onto the track team, if I didn't take that risk, I would have just assumed like, yeah, I'm not a D1 caliber athlete. I would have never thought that there was an opportunity to grow with it. Asking a boy out via email, setting myself up a blind date, that like, I feel like I started cultivating this habit of just like, I was YOLOing before YOLO was a thing.
Right.
That's awesome.
So I think that was probably it. Like, I was just like, well, I mean,
yeah,
got to try it. And it's really scary to do that, especially when you're 18, because that's usually like your entrance into the real world. You don't want to mess it up because your parents will especially tell you that like, don't mess it up. because we want your life to be better than ours was. So here's the path that we've put out for you. There's a piece of being like, oh, let me try it. Let me just try it. If it doesn't work out. When I tried to work remotely for Google, I did. But I remember what I did is I found the director of the department that I worked in. And I said, here's the deal. My husband has this job in Indiana. We just got married like a year ago. I've been living out here by myself for a few months. I don't want to do that. I need to move to Indiana. And at that point, Google didn't have remote employees very much, especially junior level, which I was. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a bet on myself. I have 6 more months of this rotation. If this works out well, great. I'll stay on the team, or you can have like, do whatever you want. If this doesn't work well, I will resign. And that was like, I will give up my job. I will leave the company if this doesn't work out well. So can you let me at least try it? That would be a lot harder thing to say now that I have like kids and a lot, but I had to get into that habit of much more then. So
yeah, just being bold.
Yeah.
Take the risk. That's awesome. It's turned out, looks fantastically well for you. And I'm sure there's been times when you've stubbed your toe along the way, but for the most part, it's been, as you've been sharing with everybody, an awesome path you've been on. So, all right, everybody, this is Miss Brittan Berry. Thanks for joining us, Brittan. You're awesome.